I have some insane news. Hiro Mashima is going to be making a new weekly manga, most likely in Weekly Shonen Magazine, since that has been where all of his weekly manga have been for years since he started his manga career. Now, while this will be his 4th weekly manga that he will be doing in the long term, this will end up being his 10th overall manga, including Dead Rock, as well as some short manga, and the Mashima Heroes crossover, like, single volume 10 chapter thing that he did a couple years back, around the start of Eden Zero's publication. Hiro Mashima is a absolute machine, a beast when it comes to being a mangaka, to the point where he does all this, still manages to find time to have actual sleep, finish Final Fantasy 16 in his free time, all while working on 2 to 3 series at the same time, mind you. And right now he's only working on 2 manga, writing Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest, and right now he is writing and illustrating Dead Rock. Now this one is monthly, 100 Years Quest is bi-weekly. Now, if you see my 100 Years Quest chapter reviews, you know I have some thoughts on the recent stuff in 100 Years Quest, but I'm still enjoying myself. And Dead Rock has been an absolute joy since it started back in 2023. But even still, the fact that Hiro Mashima not only at one point did 3 manga at once, well, technically twice he did 3 manga at once, but he is now going on to his 10th series that he will most likely illustrate and write for, most likely. If he just writes for it like he's doing where 100 Years Quest and found somebody else to write it, that would be also a really big thing as well, meaning that he can focus all his time drawing mainly for Dead Rock until that eventually concludes within the next like maybe 2 or 3 years, depending on how the story goes. But either way, this is an insane thing to think about because Hiro Mashima just loves manga. He loves writing, he loves creating these different stories, characters, and all that. And that's why he also has a bunch of just collaborations with different game companies to design characters for video games. So that's something that is honestly really fun and very admirable for him to do. Regardless on your thoughts on his works, you have to respect the grind the man has been on since the late 90s, since like 1998, I believe, or 1999, when Rave Master first came out. It is absolutely insane. But outside of the news, I want to speculate on what this new manga could be about. Could it be another flat-out fantasy series, as that seems to be what Hiro Mashima is more or less best at doing, something that he is known for doing, that's his more comfortable wheelhouse that he has done, that's his bag? Or will he try another sci-fi, or will he try something different? Who knows? But that's what I want to kind of talk about today. I want to go over what he's done in the past, and think about what his new manga could eventually become. But before we jump into my speculations, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Now let's get talking. So, we all know that the 3 main weekly series that Mashima has made, his 3 original IP, are Rave Master, Fairy Tail, and Eden's Zero. Dead Rock is his monthly series that is still going on, but I'll leave that out for the time being, as that is, to a degree, something a bit different to his usual writing style in terms of how he's handling the character's plot, as well as character deaths and stuff like that, and darker themes. But despite that, I want to focus on what he's done for weekly series. Now, I don't have much to talk about for Rave Master, as much as I do come off as someone who has read everything for Hiro Mashima. Rave Master is the one series that I'm holding off on reading. I read the first, 50 or so chapters a while ago, but I held that off, as I do want to come back to that and make a full series of videos of me going through Rave Master for the first time, giving my thoughts and opinions as I'm reading through it throughout specific arcs. But that's been down the road. I want to do some other stuff too, as well as a Eden Zero retrospective for Hiro Mashima's as well. And I also, at the point of me recording this video, I'm planning out my 7 Deadly Sins retrospective, which is the main thing I'm doing for the channel for the moment. But despite that, I'm going to get to Rave Master, but I do know that based on how Rave Master is structured at the beginning, it comes off as more episodic, against a standard evil organization, but ends up progressively showing some more of the darker themes that Hiro Mashima in Rave Master, but also later on in Fairy Tail and Eden Zero, he would experiment and expand more as well, and showcasing the dynamics for each of these different characters, and the adventure aspect that he really does love to explore with all of his series that he has done. Minus Dead Rock, it hasn't been an adventure series because it's more of a school series, but that's besides the point. Rave Master, Haru has to go and find the different pieces of Rave so that he can give it to his 10-power sword in order to unlock the different abilities and forms so he can take down and destroy all of the pieces of the Dark Bring and basically bring balance to the world. That's, again, I haven't finished Rave Master. If the story evolves beyond that point, do not spoil. I want to get to that and experience that for myself. Fairy Tail doesn't have like a clear endpoint at the beginning. It is a standard action adventure series that explores the world with each and every job, each and every quest, etc., while the story just kind of expands from there. Starts out relatively small scale as we go bigger and bigger, seeing the greater depths of the world and the bigger powers that be, like Acnologia and especially Zeref, and all of the dark guilds that we eventually see, while we get to know all of our different characters, their different struggles, as well as their backstories and personal growth. So that tends to be Fairy Tail's biggest strong point. And then Eden Zero, more or less the same thing, but this goes into beyond what the fantasy genre that Hiro Mashima is comfortable with, and goes into full-on sci-fi. And one of the few weekly mangaka to do a full-on sci-fi manga, especially like Eden Zero, and have it actually succeed, getting to nearly 300 chapters almost. I wish it hit 300 chapters, that would have been good, but it is something different. A space adventure where we go to each of these different planets with different biomes, cultures, and areas, while trying to find, with the endpoint of the series being Mother. And as we progress the series, we see new different antagonists, different ways the universe has been explored, as we eventually learn the deeper lore of the series, what Mother is, mysteries surrounding Shiki, Ziggy, the Four Shining Stars, and even a bit of Rebecca as well. And it's something I really do love about Eden Zero, because it ties the adventure aspect with a bit of a linear storytelling aspect of you knowing what the endpoint is supposed to be, the main goal, but giving you enough detours and twists and turns to keep you invested so you don't get bored. Now, Dead Rock is a dark fantasy series with demons, other realms, and it also is kind of a school setting for the most part, but doesn't kind of follow the standard school setting aspects to a degree. But it is something that Hiro Mashima is experimenting with more brutal fights, bit of a darker humor in terms of, like, you know, characters casually having body counts every single chapter. So it is something entirely different, but with the main character having the goal of revenge and killing what is essentially the major antagonist of the series, while we are, in this case, a bit slowly getting introduced to the other characters and building them out. So Dead Rock is still ongoing. I'm not going to say too much on it, but I'm loving where we're going so far. Either way, recommend reading it. So we know Hiro Mashima's main thing is fantasy based off what he has done. Obviously 100 Years Quest, he's done Monster Soul. I believe he's also done a Monster Hunter collab as well. He also did the Mashima Heroes crossover manga, which had Eden Zero, Rave Master, and Fairy Tail combined for a 10-chapter fun adventure. Let me know if you guys would like me to talk about that in the future. I do want to reread that and talk about it at some point, but I'm going to do that after I read all of Rave Master so I can get all of the references and all the characters. But we know that Hiro Mashima's comfort zone is fantasy, hard fantasy, building a world from scratch, whether it be somewhat with technology and magic, or purely magic or magic-based technology, like in Fairy Tail, and Eden Zero was the outlier. It was pure sci-fi, has a little bit of magic in it, but kind of adds it into the sci-fi aspect of it with the machines and the greater plot of the universe and how it was built out. So one would think that Hiro Mashima's next manga would most likely go back to his comfort zone. He would go back to a pure fantasy manga, and it will probably be something a bit more, different. It might not be something centered around Wizard Guild and stuff like in Fairy Tail, but it might not be something similar to Rave Master being a continental globe-trotting adventure to take out an evil organization and a greater evil of the world, at least in that aspect. If it goes pure fantasy, then we might end up having Hiro Mashima do something a bit different. Maybe he'll do something similar to Dead Rock and give the MC more of a darker backstory with a revenge-focused plot, or just wanting to avenge somebody. Who knows? Or he could go full wholesome, but have the character be broken down over time and have him change. These things could happen. But fantasy overall is Mashima's wheelhouse. He could come up with different magic systems, abilities. Obviously, he'll use this to reference Rave Master and especially Fairy Tail a lot more often. If it's pure magic based, that is something that could really happen going forward. And for all we know, he could dip into other types of mythologies. It could be something like I said, he ended up finishing Final Fantasy 16 about a year or two ago. He played through all that. Maybe he'll do something similar to that, where it's a war-torn world with characters of different abilities having to come together to end this massive globe-spanning war. There is a lot to do with the fantasy genre, and there are different ways that Mashima could potentially go about it to make it a bit of a twist on what we usually see, not only in fantasy, but could end up being something, a bit of a twist on how he usually writes fantasy himself, like with Rave Master and Eden Zero. He did something, they're just like with how Fairy Tail is a pure fantasy magic-based series with wizards, demons, demons, dragons, and all that. He might do something similar as well, or maybe he'll find a nice in-between with like Rave Master and Fairy Tail for all we know. Or he could do full sci-fi again, try again. Maybe it'll be a Eden Zero sequel for all we know, but I feel like Mashima's probably gonna like do something different. He probably doesn't want to do a sequel for any other series right now. But I want to throw a curveball here. What if Mashima does still want to try something different? Eden Zero, something completely out of his comfort zone in pure sci-fi. Dead Rock, a little bit out of his comfort zone. It's still fantasy, but it's a dark fantasy with more morally ambiguous characters for the most part, with them being okay with killing off characters, them having casual body counts, going out for revenge, all that, especially for the main character. What if he does something where, yes, we'll have fantasy elements, but what if we implant it into the real world? Like how we have a bunch of different series like Bleach or Jujutsu Kaisen, or even, I guess we could say, Loser Ranger, I hate using that name, Ranger Reject for all we know, or Chainsaw Man, like a modern day setting that has a reflection of the real world, but have these different fantasy elements in it. Maybe you could do it in a way where fantasy creatures and stuff like that, and magicians and mages, exist in a more scientifically advanced world, where there's kind of a balance of magic and science. Maybe similar to the Tuaro franchise, like a certain magical index or a certain scientific railgun to that extent, where science and magic both exist in the world, but there is constant clashing. Maybe the MC could be a way of like balancing these two forces, like he's a scientist but he knows magic, or maybe he's on the pure magic side and pure science side, and there's conflict like that. I am basically describing the bare bones of the entirety of a certain magical index's plot with Toma at this point, but either way, you get what you mean. He could end up doing a modern day setting where magic is the norm, and it is something that people use every day, or it's used in tandem with science to kind of build up their society. That could be something that Mashima could end up experimenting with, and he could grow from it as well. Again, it's something familiar in terms of the fantasy aspect of like magic, but putting it in the real world setting will give him a chance to try and experiment more, give himself a challenge like he did with Eden Zero and how he did Ether Gear, Ether and androids and space travel. It'll give him a chance to experiment with his art and what he can do for the future. The possibilities are endless, and this could be another Battle Shonen series because that has basically all he has ever done. Or, if you want to throw a massive curveball, he is going to do his own ecchi romance series for all we know. Honestly, a lot of fans, while rating Eden Zero especially, and even Hunter's Quest to a degree, many fans were like, Hiro Mashima, please, either draw a full-on ecchi series for a couple of months, or a shmentai for all we know, get all that horniness, all that fan service, like extreme stuff out of your system, because even I have to agree, especially in Eden Zero, there are moments where the fan service can be kind of much, and I do feel like, especially towards specific sections of his different series, but not in Dead Rock, I feel like he just throws fan service in, like, when it happens a lot of the time. He usually handles it relatively well, but he does it a bit more in Eden Zero than he did in Fairy Tail in comparison. And Fairy Tail had a good amount of fan service towards the end of the series. So I feel like maybe he's going to do something like that, get it all out of his system, and then jump onto an entirely different series. That way he doesn't have to put a bunch of fan service all the time. I don't usually mind Mashima's fan service moments in any of his series, but I think we can all agree he can do it a bit too much, and I feel like he would definitely need to get it out of his system a bit more, and then he can focus more on the story and characters without having to like the need or the impulse to like draw fan servicey moments. Then again, it's Hiro Mashima. He probably won't do that, and he'll just sprinkle those in throughout whatever new series he ends up writing. Who knows? That's just a suggestion I just threw out anyway, but let me know in the comments how you feel about the fan service in Mashima's manga. Do you think he's kind of going a bit overboard over the last couple of years, or do you think it's fine? Let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. But all that is to say, the possibilities are endless for Hiro Mashima's new manga. It could be a pure fantasy. Maybe he'll try another sci-fi. Maybe he'll do a balance of fantasy and sci-fi. Maybe he'll do a modern day setting with magical or supernatural powers and expand from there. He could do a full-on romance series for all we know, or an ecchi manga. Mashima can basically do whatever the hell he wants. He is literally the golden goose of Weekly Shonen Magazine, outside of the mangaka who makes Hajime no Ippo the literal One Piece of Weekly Shonen Magazine. That's been going on since the 80s and is almost at 1,500 chapters from what I remember. Honestly, Hiro Mashima is a beast for about to make his 10th manga series and 4th weekly serialization, but George Morikawa has been writing the same series for almost 40 years. I don't know if it's any close to the end. I gotta catch up on Ippo at some point. I really want to read that manga. Everyone talks about how good it is. But anyway, that's besides the point. Mashima can basically do whatever he wants with Show Magazine. Eden Zero kept going despite not having the big enough sales like Fairy Tail, and even Hunter's Quest was outselling it to a degree, but it was still going on to the point where he wanted to feel like he wanted to finish it. So Again, anything's possible. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. What do you think Hiro Mashima's next manga is going to be? Do you think it'll be an entirely different genre that he's normally done, or do you think he's gonna go back to his comfort zone in terms of a pure hard fantasy series, or kind of do a half and half of sci-fi or modern day setting with fantasy elements? Let me know. And once more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps and shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. And with all that said and done, hope you all have an awesome day.